without further ado, Terry Goedel.
All right, thank you. So I'm mic'd up a couple times here. One we're videoing and the other one is for the individuals that are here tonight. And we thank you for coming to visit with us. Tonight I have my daughter with me, Tara, and her children, Chante and Mariana, and we're gonna be doing some things for you and explaining hoop dance. But to begin, I would like to start by can we turn the lights down a little bit so we can watch this video? So I'm a Native American hoop dancer. Back in 1971, the first time I saw the Native American hoop dance, I had no involvement whatsoever with Native Americans. Even though I was Native American, it wasn't anything that I wanted. Over the last 50 years, I've been sharing my culture everywhere I go around the world, and my children have also. And it was a couple of years ago that my daughter called me up, and this is my daughter who's going to be singing. Her name is Heather Parker, and she's a singer. She's not a dancer. The rest of the family were all dancers. She called me up and she said, "Dad, I've got a great idea. I want to do a video." I said, "Okay." She goes, "I'll call you right back." And she hung up. And about an hour or two later, she called up and she said, "Dad, here's my idea. I want to do the circle of life." You know the circle of life? I said, "Yeah, I know the circle of life." She said, "Because of the Native American hoops, the circle, we call it the circle of life." So she wanted to do this. So she put everything together. She found the people to video. She found the people to dance. She found the places to video this. And she put together this thing by herself without any backing from anybody. That's the amazing thing. So tonight I'm talking about the things that you want and the things that I want and how we accomplish the dreams that we have, because they can always be done, especially to the young kids. You have to be able to see with your heart, not with your eyes. You can see with your eyes, but when you finally open your heart, that's when your dreams come true. So she said, I want to do this video, so I want you to watch this. In this video, the girl that's singing that you'll see right here is my daughter, Heather. The young lady that you see, Chante, come up here just for a minute. The young lady that you see hoop dancing, that will be this young lady, but she was a little bit shorter, okay? So be looking for her, that's Chante. It will be myself dancing and my son dancing, and it will be Chante and Mariana's uncle, who is the other person singing, and he's Lakota. So they are Lakota. Did that go off? Yeah, I think it did. I think it came unplugged. So they are Lakota Sioux, and so it's very relevant for this area right now. So enjoy this video, and if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer questions. Here it is.
And blinking, step into the sun.
There's more to see than can ever be seen, more to do than can ever be done.
There's far too much to take in here, more to find than can never be found.
It's the circle of life, and it moves us all through despair and hope, through faith and love, till we find our place on the path unwinding. It's the circle.
It's the
It's a circle, the circle of life, circle of life.
So when my daughter approached me and asked me if she could do this, one of the things that just occurred to me for the first time was the circle of life is not complete until we hand it to our children and their children. So when talking about the hoop, as a young man, I grew up on a small reservation in Washington. It's called the Tulalip Reservation. And I struggled to identify my native roots. My mom wanted me so bad to be a Native American, and I was, and there was nothing I could do to change that. And like each one of us, we are who we are. You can't change that. But we can find out who we are, and we can improve who we are. We can make ourselves stronger and better. And as a young man, one day I saw some hoop dancers. And I had seen all the other dancers, but the hoop dancers were different. And they had opened a door for me. They had lit a light inside that 51 years ago went on, and now for 50 years it's been glowing. And I've been sharing with the world. So the hoops, we call this the circle of life. There's no beginning and there's no end. So as the hoop dancers begin dancing, they're telling a story. For the Native Americans across the United States and Canada, with over 500 Native tribes, each one has a different language, and each dance tells a different story. The natives believe that as we bring this hoop and we take it through our body in different ways, we're healing ourselves and we're adding health and strength to our own personal life. But the songs and dances are stories that are being told. And as Tara begins showing these, you'll see this is a story of a small bird. This is our journey, and this is the circle of life. So as we have a beginning and we have an end, they often did this as a wedding dance because there was no beginning and there was no end. And as they added this, this is a journey of a small bird, and the bird represents us in our life. So as this small bird begins to grow and develop, we see this journey. Well, they began, and this dance comes to us from the Southwest, from the Taos Pueblo Indians. But now, today, in today's world, there's many dancers who dance who are not, probably most are not Taos Pueblo, but they share the story. They began using hoops, and the hoops that they used, the colors that they used were red, yellow, black, and white. And as you go across native countries, you'll see that color come up a lot. That represented the directions, north, south, east, and west. But in this particular dance, as these 4 hoops come together, it represents the people that come from the 4 directions in the world that we live in. So this is the directions, and it's the people, the red, the yellow, the black, and the white. In the Southwest, there's still many hoop dancers today that only use 5 hoops. And they have a center hoop, and the center hoop is the key hoop. It represents the Great Spirit. As we transform this, and as we go to the 5th hoop in the very center, we see the Great Spirit. And as Tara transforms us into a nest, this is a reminder to each one of us that the Great Spirit is supposed to be in the center of our home. And without that, we've lost something. So as we bring the people together from the 4 directions and we add that 5th hoop, there's one hoop that is a key hoop, and it's the hoop that keeps our world intact. It keeps everything as it should be. And when we remove that hoop, the world has a tendency to fall apart. It doesn't have enough to hold it up, and eventually it just collapses. So it's a reminder to each one of us in our journey through this world to keep that as the most important part. I'm going to invite my two of my grandchildren up here, and I want you to and bring your hoops up here. And what I want to do is I just want you to take a look. So Tara, if you'd come up here just for a minute. So the circle of life teaches this. It teaches me that if I have the knowledge and the wisdom, I need to get it to the next generation. And for the Native Americans, what they did, there was no written language. So they had to tell it through their dances and their stories and their songs. So when you come upon people who are singing their native songs in their language, many times they are sharing a story that has been passed down to them for many years. So many years ago, 50 years ago, I began hoop dancing. About 18 years ago, was it, Tara? About 18 years ago, Tara began dancing with me along with my other children. And now, 6 or 7 years, Chante's been dancing. And for about 4 years, Mariana has been dancing. I have 14 grandchildren. For each one of my grandchildren, I make them a set of hoops. And hoops are supposed to be made specifically for the individual because they need to be proportional to the person. I can't make them too big and I can't make them too little. So what I'd like to do is I would like to show you with these young ladies, if you guys will just stand, and Terry, you can go ahead and have a seat. What I would like you to do is showing them how to actually put the hoops on is one thing, but actually teaching them the complete dance is something a little different. So if I was to ask them, and when they first learned how, and they first wanted to learn how, and still I hold workshops and assemblies across the country. And when they come with me, they're always learning new things that they're incorporating into their dance. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's show them how you would make an eagle using only 3 hoops. Using only 3 hoops. So learning the basics of the dance, how these hoops go on, where your arms go, and putting the hoops on so they work. Now, if we want to extend these hoops, then what we do is, as we're dancing, go ahead and pick those up. Now they got to figure out either they have to have those already in their hand or they have to learn how to pick those up so that they can incorporate that into their dance. So in a few minutes here, I'm going to have them actually dance. Go ahead, you can get it. There you go. It'll go, there you go. She got it. So as you watch, you kind of see that they're learning this dance. In this video that we just watched, you saw Chante. And Chante, my daughter Tara, she went all around the country and she found the spots that she thought were the best. For each one of us, and I often ask this, what inspires you? What in your life do you want to do? What is it that you haven't done that you want to do? So my daughter said, I want to make an album. I want to make music. I want to make a record. And about a year ago, she did. She made a children's album, and the name of it is Shine. And it's what she is seeking after. And for each one of us, the question is, what do you want? Especially for the kids, what do you want? So here in a minute, Are we ready with the music over there? I'm going to have Chante and Mariana show you this dance. And I want you to see what happens over a lifetime of dancing. Because I've been dancing for 50 years. And in a little while, you'll see, I'll be dancing with my daughter. And you'll see what happens over a lifetime when we share with our children the things that are most important. So we're going to have Chante and Mariana dance. I'm going to have Chante introduce herself. To me, it's really important to give our children the education, the insight, the strength and ability to do things independently. So I'm going to have her introduce herself.
Hi. Yeah. Hi, my name is Chante Kingi, and this is my sister, Devanney. And I am 10 years old, and I've been dancing for about 7 years. And then my sister is 8 years old, and she's been dancing for about 2 or 3 years. And we are both Yakima, Tulalip, Columbia, and Lakota Sioux, and I hope you enjoy our version of the Native American dance.
Right. You know, for each one of us, the things we're looking for and the things we find oftentimes aren't where we're looking, and oftentimes we don't even know what we found. As a young man, I was living on the Tulalip Reservation. My mother and father had lived across the country because my dad was in the Navy for over 20 years. My mother spoke a fluent Lushootseed language that I never even heard her speak till I was a young teenager. We'd moved back to the reservation. As she started speaking with a friend, my eyes just got big and I was like, who are you? She was speaking fluently a language that she had never shared with me. I remember asking her one time, Mom, how come you never taught us while we were growing up? And she said, well, they put us in schools, and if they ever heard us speak in our language, they took either a yardstick or a ruler and they slapped the back of our hands. And finally in 6th grade, One day, somebody slapped the back of her hand and she grabbed the ruler or yardstick, whatever it was, and she broke it. And she said, "Don't ever hit me again." And that was the last day she went to school. Now, it's funny because we never know where life is going to take us, but it's kind of what's in here and what you want that kind of leads you to the world. So she kept this hid and nobody knew it. It was when people found out that she spoke Lushootseed and it was a dying language that someone offered her an opportunity one night to go and listen to someone speak the language. And when she went to go hear them speak the language, the person began saying words and she kept correcting them all night. "No, that isn't, you just said this. No, you didn't say that. You said this. No, you." And finally at the end, the person said, "Well, if you know so much, why don't you come teach this class next week?" And she said, "Okay." So she began a journey and she didn't know, but she had something that nobody else had. And many of us have that same thing. Each one of us have something that nobody has. And when you find that and you share with the world, it's something that will be missing when you're gone. So with a 6th grade education, that next week, she went up and she began teaching a language that was almost dead. It was almost gone. There was only a few people left speaking the language on Tulalip. Within a few years, they had invited her to begin teaching the class at the local community college. The year that she passed away, the University of Washington offered her a job to teach Lushootseed with only a 6th grade education. So I want you to think, a lot of times we think about the things that limit us. The only thing that limits each one of us is ourselves. What do you want? We watched the video by Heather Parker. Nobody gave her any money. Nobody had the dream but her. One day she saw what she wanted. And when she decided she was going to get it, she went after it. While I was growing up on the reservation, there wasn't much hope for me to graduate from high school because I was Native American, and Native Americans, for the most part, didn't finish school. Many of them had dropped out before they even got into high school. And so when they told me it'd be okay if I didn't graduate, after I saw the hoop dancers, I decided I knew what I wanted. And I graduated a year early at the age of 16. I was in college at the age of 16. I went on and, college wasn't made for me. It was really difficult. I had a math brain and the math brain worked really good, but the rest of it really struggled because I had grown up all around the country. It took me many years to graduate, but I finally did graduate. And I got my bachelor's degree and I got my master's degree also. My daughter, Tara, who never grew up on the reservation, but she knew her roots. She knew who she was. As she entered college, there was things that she struggled with. For each one of us, she became a teacher. She's got 4 children. She hoop dances. The question really is, what do you as an individual want out of life? Education isn't always just going to school. It's not always college. There's a lot of things that we can be educated about. When Tara started dancing with me about 18 years ago, we didn't have the same dreams. She didn't have the same things that I wanted. I'm going to ask Tara to come up here for a minute, and I want her to talk to you a little bit about the women and maybe a little bit about the regalia, because it's a process. I found it, but I can't give it to her. It's something she's got to find, and it's something that she's got to want. And now she's got her own children, and we're trying to educate them. Education is something that is given to you or that you obtain when someone is providing you the opportunity to learn. So I'd like to have Tara talk to you just for a minute.
All right, well, thank you everyone for being here. So originally this dance was only performed by males. And today we have women all throughout the United States and Canada who are performing this dance. And so that's been a neat thing to witness. A few years ago, they actually just started the first all-women hoop dance competition. And so that was a huge milestone in the hoop dancing world. So that's one way that this dance has evolved over the years. And then also, the regalia that we wear. So we each get to design our own regalia, and we call it regalia, not a costume, because a costume would be something that we would wear when we're in a play pretending to be someone else, or at Halloween, when again we're pretending to be someone else. So this is our regalia, and each dancer gets to design their own regalia. If they're talented enough to sew, then they can make their own, but we usually have a friend of ours who makes our regalia for us. We kind of choose the colors and the materials and the design, and she puts it together for us. So the colors I've chosen, these were just colors that I liked. And again, these probably aren't traditional colors. So even the regalia, the outfits that we use, that's something that's evolved over the years.
For my particular regalia, so I come from the Tulalip and Yakima, which are both in Washington. Right here we see the orca. And for our tribe, we use the orca. If you ever go to Tulalip, you'll see on the outside the orcas, in many fashions. And this is a Northwest design. So in my particular regalia, there has value and meaning to me. On the front is the sun. So we talk about the Great Spirit, and we talk about the sun, and on the back I have the moon and the stars, and it's about the creation. And here I have the animals, the plants, and as we do the dance, it's about the plants and the animals. So for me, it's my being thankful to the Great Spirit for providing me this opportunity to share. But in my particular regalia, you'll see that this is a Northwest design where Tara's is not. So each person decides colors, what they want to have, how they want to wear it, how they want to put it on. So each one is unique.
Yeah, and originally, so this dance has evolved over the years. So I told you that first it was only for more radio. You see how our regalia has evolved and changed. And then also the materials we use. So originally these hoops were made from the branches of a willow tree, and they would take the branches and bend them into these circular shapes. And today we actually just use PVC pipe. Well, most dancers do. And we get that at a place like Lowe's. And the reason that we use PVC pipe is because it's more durable. So you can see that I can bend it and it won't break. And then we just wrap electrical tape around it. And the electrical tape gives it some friction so that they're not so slippery, and they can hold together when we put them into the formation of the world. And then lastly, another way that this dance has evolved is the music. So the song that my daughters danced to was a little more traditional, although you probably caught that they were singing about Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse, and that was kind of fun. The song that my dad and I will be dancing to tonight is more modern. So it's still a native group, but it's got an upbeat feel to it. So it's something similar to what you might hear on the radio. So that's just a few ways that this dance has evolved throughout the years. So this story, this dance tells a story about this bird that grows and changes and evolves. And it's neat because the dance itself has evolved and changed in many ways.
If you have questions that you want to ask us when we're finished, we'll be talking a little bit more afterwards. But if something comes to mind, even as we're talking now, if you have a question, feel free to go ahead and ask us about that question. The dance comes to us from the Taos Pueblos, but in today's native world, this is the dance of an individual. So each person gets their individual interpretation. One of the big differences you'll find between the men and the women is when she walks, you can't hear her. And when I do, you know where I am immediately. So the men wear bells and the women do not. You'll notice a difference in the dancing style. The women are more graceful and they're on their toes, and the men, we pound a little bit more. We're dancing much harder. But you'll see see a difference between the two of us. Probably about maybe 8 or 9 years ago, we had the exact same routine as I taught her. As we dance now, you'll see some differences, but you'll see some things that are similar, even with what the young ladies were doing a little bit earlier. So we'd like to share with you this dance called the hoop dance. I'll just hold two mics. Whew, is it warm in here or us? As a young man, I struggled to identify my native roots. And I've got a, Tara, can you help me? Slip that right there and just right there. You want to put this right there? I was that little boy that didn't know who he was. As a little boy, I had my little 6-shooters and my cowboy hat. I thought I had blonde hair and blue eyes. My dad was a full-blooded German. My mother was a full-blooded Native American. One of the things I found out as a very young boy, I always thought I looked like the person that I saw because of my mom and dad. My mom was really dark, so when I talked to her, I thought I was really dark. And when I talked to my dad, who is as pale as you can get, I thought I had blue eyes, and I thought I was light-skinned like him. So as I grew up around the world, wherever I went, I thought I looked like the person that was across from me. Just think if we could all talk to the person across from us as though they look like us. How different would our world be? It wasn't until I was a young man and I realized that I didn't have blonde hair and blue eyes. I'm grateful to my father for what he gave me. He gave me the German side. But as I walk down the street, there's not very many people that say, hey, that guy's a German. Everywhere I go, they say, oh, that Indian guy over there. And when I moved on to the reservation, I found out I was Native American. Inside, I cried because it hurt, because that isn't what I thought I was. And one day I saw this dance. And when I saw this dance, I found out who I was. And inside, a light was lit, and it emulated, and it couldn't go, nobody could turn it off. And it was like, now I know who I am, and nobody can change that. And it doesn't matter what anybody thinks anymore, because I know who I am. I'm a Native American. My children know who they are, and my grandchildren know who they are. We try to talk to them about their other roots also. In my family, we have African American, we have Maori, we have Samoan, we have Hispanic, we have Native American, we have German, we have English. And in the tribes, we kind of feel a unity, but in the family, it doesn't matter what the background is because we're family. So just think if we could do this as a country, as a world, if you could see today from now on yourself and the person across from you, how different would our world be? As we go from place to place, we try to teach our children the importance of who they are. And only you can determine what happens in here. Once that light goes on, nobody can ever turn it off but you. So we appreciate the Crazy Horse providing us the opportunity to come here and share with others because we think that's important. But before we go, I want to see if there's anybody who has any questions, and we will be up here, and if you want to take pictures, we'll be happy to take pictures. At the end, we're going to show this one more time, the Circle of Life, a video that my daughter did. And everybody knows the Circle of Life because it's a song that everybody knows from The Lion King. And now we have our view from the Native American world with everybody, the videographer, the singers, the drummer, the dancers, everybody that was part of it was Native American, and it's the perspective of the Native Americans. I don't have the answers to everything. I have some answers, and if I don't know the answer, I'll let you know. But anybody have any questions for any of us? Let's give Chante and Mariana, you guys come up here. Let's give Chante and Mariana a hand. Tara is the women's 2019 World Hoop Dance Champion, right there. So we're teaching these guys right now already that they're champions already. All they have to do is get out here and dance, and they become champions to us. So do we have questions? Anybody have any questions you want to ask us as we've been performing or doing anything? And if not, we'll just be up here and we'll let you take pictures if you want pictures or talk to us individually. Anybody have any questions they want to ask us? Yes.
Why do men wear males wear bells?
Well, that way we can't sneak up on them. For the men incorporated bells in their dancing. And long ago, they used to use deer hoofs. And the deer hoofs made a little different sound. And so that was part of their regalia that they wore. For the most part, we used all parts of the animal. Matter of fact, on the bottom of my moccasin, you'll notice duct tape comes from the ducks. People say, well, yeah, but what about your shorts? I'm like, those come from the Baika Indians, the Baika shorts. They used as much as they could everything from nature. So when the Europeans came over and they brought the bells, they liked the sound of the bells better than they did the deer hoofs and the other things that they used. So just except for the jingle dress, and I think there's one up here somewhere, you'll hear them. They have 365 cones and they make that sound that is unique to a jingle dress dancer. But just for the most part, men had something that made a sound like that. Good question, though. Anybody else? Yes? So there's a mixture, depends on what song you're listening to. So we actually incorporate, over 500 tribes. So if someone's singing a song and I don't know their language, I don't know if they're singing lyrics or words. Sometimes they're making what we call vocables, like we go la 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 la, and we're humming a tune, but we don't really have any words. So sometimes it's a mixture of sounds and sometimes it's actual words. So it depends what song you're actually listening to. And then you have to ask the people who actually made it if there's words, or because some of them are actual songs. In the Southwest, they have bird singers and they have 365 songs. And those 365 songs are all different. And each one is talking about something. So to us, it sounds like they're doing the same thing over and over and over, when in reality, they're talking about the plants and the animals and the world and the heavens and the earth and everything. So it's a good question, and that has to be asked by each song, the person who's singing it, whether it is or not. Anybody else? Other questions? No other questions? Okay, so we want to thank you, and we want to thank the Crazy Horse Memorial program here for providing us the opportunity to share with you just a little bit about Native culture. So we're going to be probably over here, and I'm going to turn this on. If anybody came in a little bit late, you want to watch The Circle of Life by Heather Parker. It's the view of a Native American, what the circle of life is. And we'll be right here either taking pictures or answering questions for you. So thank you, and we hope you guys have a wonderful evening.